Okay, welcome everyone to the 2025-2026 Community Arts Grant Public Panel Review. Huge welcome from CultureWorks. Today I'm going to be speaking on behalf of Lisa Hansen. Typically, if you've been to this event before, you know that she loves to make the introductions and welcome everybody. But as NATO is in town and CultureWorks is rather involved in that, I'm afraid she is on call. And so what you get today is me. So welcome. I am Ren, Rachel Evans Need, but I go by Ren. I think of that as my name. And I'm the Director of Grant Making and Impact here at CultureWorks. And so welcome, we're excited to have you. On behalf of CultureWorks, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the 25-26 Community Arts Grant Panel Meeting. This grant provides general operating support to organizations that enrich and inspire the Dayton region through world-class performances, exhibitions, and acclaimed educational programs for all ages of people in our region. The funding for this program comes from the CultureWorks community-wide fundraising initiative, the Campaign for the Arts. This campaign has a long history and our region and is ongoing at this time. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce Curtis Bowman to everyone, but she just now walked into her office. So I'm going to put that a little bit on hold and keep going and then come back around to that introduction. Like Lisa, I would also like to welcome, well, now I'm reading Curtis's part. As Curtis indicated, or will indicate, CultureWorks is a steward of community funds. And in keeping with our commitment to transparency, CultureWorks relies on a grant panel of knowledgeable community members. So I would like to welcome each of you to today's Community Arts Grant Public Panel. CultureWorks believes in the power of the arts to unlock our human potential to connect, to grow, and to inspire. Curtis wanted to thank each of you for the work you do to ensure a successful campaign for the arts. We know that our arts organizations are involved and support that process. Dayton truly is an ecosystem driven by the creativity of our community members. And Curtis wished each of your organizations the best as our panel, a group of community members from across our region, discusses with each other their experience of reading your applications and visiting your organizations during their site visits. So I went ahead and read Curtis too. I'm many people today. So as Curtis was going to indicate in her comments, CultureWorks is a steward of community funds. And in keeping with our commitment to transparency, CultureWorks relies on a grant panel of knowledgeable community members to evaluate applications for the community arts grants and make funding recommendations. This year's Community Arts Grant panelists are, and each of you, I welcome you to say hello after I say a little bit about you and maybe add your own 2 cents to your bio. Erin Culp is Director of Philanthropy at the Kettering Health Foundation. She is a repeat panelist for the Community Arts Grant, and we're happy to have her back again as a primary reader. So thank you, Erin.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Gregory Changa Freeman is a writer, photographer, and president of the African American Visual Arts Guild. Also a repeat reviewer, panelist for CultureWorks, and a primary reviewer this year. Always wonderful to have Changa in our midst.
Good morning, everyone, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Culture Works for providing these opportunities to our arts community, as well as the Montgomery County Art and Culture District.
Thank you, Gregory. Aaron Smith Glenn is Associate Professor of Art at Central State University, also a repeat panelist for Culture Works on this grant and serving as a primary reviewer this year. Thank you, Aaron, for being here.
Thank you for having me back. Good morning, everyone.
Tony Sprinkle is retired from Key Bank and continues to serve as a financial advisor for many years. And she's also on the board of Hospice of Dayton and an avid frequenter of the arts in Dayton. So thank you, Tony, for being here.
It's my pleasure. Good morning, everyone.
David Sheff is a retired president of his own company, Sheff Enterprises, has served on multiple boards over the years, including Arcade Innovation Hub and the Entrepreneur Center. David, so excited to have you on the panel this year.
Thank you for that introduction, and I'm pleased, honored to be a participant at this point.
Joy Johnson, a local visual artist who I want everyone to know had to turn down an interview to be here today. Very dedicated artist and very happy and excited to have her on our panel this year. Thank you, Joy.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited, inspired, and grateful to be here. Thank you so much.
I'd like to take a moment now to introduce Curtis Bowman, our Director of Engagement, who runs our Workplace Giving campaign for the arts. Curtis, I confess, I wasn't sure if you were going to make it in because of NATO, so I sort of read your paragraph on your behalf, but would you like to add anything?
I just wanted to take an opportunity to thank everybody for being on. I guess you're having trouble hearing me. I see you all leaning forward like you can.
It's a little blurry, but we got you.
So just thank you. You know, when we go out into the community and we raise money for the community arts grants, we talk about all of the pieces that go together to make Culture Works work. We have artists that go into workplaces. Aaron, I know you've done live painting at Children's Hospital, and your work inspires people to donate. And then the money is pooled, and committees like this review the applications. And then the money is given to the arts groups, and the arts groups foster artists who go into workplaces and get, we've got a circle going. And I love that. And I'm so grateful for you participating. And I'm going to leave you because we are running around with our hair on fire with the NATO Parliamentary Assembly stuff happening. But I'm so happy to see you all, and thank you so much for your service to the arts. Thanks, Ren, for inviting me.
Thank you, Curtis. I'm really glad you could make it. I appreciate it. I know we're busy out there. I'd also like to introduce everyone to Madison Klemp. She is Culture Works Associate of Grant Making and Impact. She'll be providing technical support today throughout the meeting. So thank you, Madison, for being here.
Thank you. And it's also very good to see everybody again.
And then, I will introduce you to myself. I am the Culture Works Director of Grant Making and Impact, and I will also be serving as the panel facilitator today. So welcome, everyone. With no further ado, I'm going to give you a quick overview of the grant making process before we get started with the actual review itself. So in the weeks leading up to today's meeting, panelists reviewed all 10 applications independently and completed initial scoring using an established 100-point scoring rubric. Today's meeting allows the panelists the first opportunity to consider viewpoints of their fellow panelists. So this is the first time they are discussing the applications. During this time, they will revisit their initial scores with the opportunity to reconsider those scores before finalizing them after this public session. The public panel meeting also provides applicant organizations and community members to hear valuable and specific feedback as they look forward to improving upon this year's application. Especially this year, I think this is important because as applicants, I'm sure are very aware, the application itself went through some significant revisions. And so we're hoping to garner feedback throughout this process from the panelists and the applicants alike. So please watch for a special survey that will go out to everyone after the public review, probably within the next couple weeks. Panelists will make their final scoring determinations in a closed session after today's public meeting, and applicants must receive an average score of at least 70 points out of 100 to be eligible for funding. In order to determine the grant amounts, the final scores that you receive today will be input into a funding formula, which also takes into account the number of applicants, each applicant organization's budget size, and the amount of funding available through the 2025 Campaign for the Arts, which will end on June 30th. This is a non-competitive grant where the panelists basically score and assess each application individually based on the size of the organization, the number of years it has been established, and as well as the art forms, which are variant. All applicant organizations will be notified of their final scores within 5 business days of this meeting, and they will be notified of their funding amounts in July, following the close of the campaign and approval of funding recommendations by the CultureWorks Board of Trustees. At this time, I'm handing the meeting over to myself. That was the Lisa portion, you all. Did I give that vibe? I don't think I did. There's no other Lisa Hansen on the planet. So now it's just me. You're getting Ren, the panel facilitator. During the public portion of today's meeting, grant panelists will discuss 10 applications for community arts grant funding. These applications are divided into 2 categories. The general operating support category is for organizations with annual budgets between $500,000 and $10 million, a larger budget. And the community arts development category is for organizations with annual budgets between $100,000 and $500,000. Those 2 applications will be after lunch. The purpose of today's meeting is to provide panelists with an opportunity to hear each other's perspectives and for organizations to hear specific feedback about their applications. Attendees should keep in mind that today's discussions move quickly. However, panelists have conducted a thorough review and initial scoring of applications over the course of several weeks prior to today's meeting. To ensure that there is sufficient time to discuss all applications, panelists will not always address every area of each application in their comments, but they will focus on primary areas of strengths and areas for improvement. Applicants and other attendees may only observe the meeting and will not be permitted to interact with panelists or to provide any additional information during the review process. CultureWorks will be providing both panelists and applicants a survey, as I mentioned earlier, reviewing the application and this panel review process so that we can make improvements next year. Those surveys will go out within a month, hopefully the next few weeks of this review. Prior to the panel meeting, panelists were asked to identify any conflicts of interest with applicant organizations. Panelists do not score or discuss applications from organizations with which they have a conflict. And this is the first time they will be discussing applications as a group. The deliberations will proceed as follows. Panelists will discuss each application one at a time for up to 15 minutes each. At the beginning of each discussion, any panelist who has identified a conflict of interest with the applicant organization will be temporarily removed from the meeting. I will then call on the primary reviewer, who is a person who has reviewed as a community arts grant panelist in the past, as well as someone who has attended the site visit for that organization. They will focus on the primary strengths and weaknesses of the application based on our scoring categories: artistic and cultural vibrancy, artistic evaluation and innovation, community impact and engagement, and organizational capacity. Once the primary reviewer has concluded their remarks, I will open the floor to other panelists to add comments, and that will lead to what I hope and am sure will be a fruitful discussion between a really thoughtful and careful group of people. After all panelists have had the chance to comment, I will draw the discussion to a close, and each panelist will have a moment to adjust their scoring and take notes as needed. There will be a short break in the middle of the review of general operating support applications and a longer lunch break prior to the review of the community arts development applications. Once the panel has discussed everyone's application, we will enter a closed session, at which time attendees will be asked to leave. During this closed session, panelists will have a final opportunity to revisit discussion points and to revise their scores before submitting them to CultureWorks staff. As a final note, the public portions of today's panel meeting are being recorded, and a recording will be available on the CultureWorks website within 1 week, as well as our YouTube playlist for grant applicant support. That takes us 4 minutes over our schedule, everyone, because I did not talk fast enough. So what I would like to do at this time is invite Gregory Chonga Freeman and Aaron Smith Glenn out as there are conflicts of interest with our first with our first applicant, Dayton Arts Institute. So I'm going to invite you two out, and just please stay close so that I can pull you back in as soon as this discussion is finished. Now my mouse has turned off, so let's get that working again. Okay, there we go. Okay. So Erin Kulp is our primary reviewer, and I will ask her now to please begin the discussion of this applicant. Oh, okay. Sorry, Erin. I exited the wrong Erin. That is totally my bad. I apologize.
It's all right. I had a moment of panic.
No, it was nothing you did. It was Ren. It was all Ren. I played too many people this morning. I got confused. All right, will you please initiate this discussion? Poor DAI.
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so I'm gonna attempt to do about a 5-minute summary of the application, my reaction to the application, and then hopefully kickstart some discussion. So Dayton Art Institute is the only fine art museum in a 60-mile radius. It maintains a permanent collection of more than 1,000 works in the galleries, 28,000 in the collection, and annually presents 3 major special exhibitions along with 11 smaller focused exhibitions drawn from collections and new acquisitions, recently conserved artworks, artistic partnerships, and traveling exhibitions. That's kind of a summary of the organization itself. And then looking at the application in the artistic and cultural vibrancy section, couple of pieces that I picked out to highlight. Their application focuses on their special and focus exhibitions in the 2025 season, highlighting the Dayton icon Art of Curtis Barnes, which is a partnership with the African American Visual Artists Guild and the Dayton Printmakers Cooperative, which is a partnership between Dayton and Kyoto, Japan. So those were 2 areas that they really highlighted in their application. The other piece in the artistic and cultural vibrancy section that really stood out to me was the detail they emphasized about their educational programming. During the school year, they served more than 2,900 students. And in particular, I was very interested as they spoke about a new initiative. It sounded like a partnership with Preschool Promise, where they're providing 120 students with engagement and instruction in the classroom every other week. And that also includes some, it sounded like boxes of art supplies that the students got to take home to continue their learning at home outside of the classroom. So as we think about artistic and cultural vibrancy, both the vibrancy of the special exhibitions, but then the application is also focused on the way that they're engaging youth and then also taking art outside of the walls of the museum itself. In the artistic evaluation and innovation section, one of the pieces that I wrote down that was really striking was they highlighted that for the first time since 2007, all of their special exhibition galleries had more than 11,000 guests. And last season, the season that they were reporting attendance numbers for, had the largest total attendance since 2011, when they had a Norman Rockwell exhibition that really blew attendance numbers out of the waters. So really tremendous growth, particularly post-pandemic, that they were highlighting in that section, that they've had some really good attendance numbers in the last season. They spoke in that section about their evaluation and strategic plan, which focuses in 4 key areas: the art collection itself, their education programming, IDEA being inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility, and community connections. And in this section, they highlighted a couple of initiatives in each of those. I spoke about a couple of them earlier, and I'll speak about a couple of them in a minute or two. The application also had some really specific details about the metrics and how they're measuring progress to their goals, specifically what percentage of art from underrepresented artists they're trying to highlight in the different galleries, as well as the way that they're evaluating the audiences, ages, and the diversity of the audience and attendance. The application references, and I thought this was really interesting, that the planning cycle for a special exhibition is about 3 years. and for a focus exhibition is 1 to 2 years. So they're constantly gathering feedback and then planning for a couple of years down the road based on the feedback that they're gathering. In the community impact and engagement section, I already noted the highest attendance since 2011. They also highlighted 5 key strategic partners that they are working with. The African American Visual Artists Guild, Preschool Promise, the Area Agency on Aging, Dayton Metro Libraries, and Five Rivers Metro Parks. And I thought that was really interesting for them to highlight and to get a sense of the specific ways that they're targeting populations within the community. A partnership specifically with an African American Artist Guild, specifically looking at Preschool Promise, targeting youth. And then they spoke a couple of times about an initiative they have launched with the Alzheimer's Association and promoting that with the Area Agency on Aging. And then the partnership with Dayton Metro Libraries allows expanded access to reduced cost tickets as well. So they're really taking some very strategic and focused effort to expand access to the museum for very specific targeted audiences. The application mentions developing programming to address community engagement gaps in the local community, including mobile programming. And that was one thing that they referenced, and I would have liked to hear a little bit more about what that means. So just a curiosity for the future. The other piece that I found really intriguing in this section was the reference to the DAI dialogues model, with shared experiences viewing artwork through the lens of neighbors and community leaders. So these were opportunities to engage in conversation of the folks who were attending, and the application referenced that some of these conversations led to really strikingly personal reactions from artists and attendees, which I thought was notable. Looking at the organizational capacity section, they spoke in some level of detail about their strategic plan, which I highlighted a little bit before. That strategic plan engaged about 4,300 museum members in the process of building it. One of the things of note in the application, they referenced a challenging financial position that they're in, and that the organization had invested heavily in staffing and programming in recent years, but they were finding that the revenue wasn't covering those costs. So they've had to undertake some cuts in order to balance their budget. They are focused on increasing contributed revenue, targeting an additional 20%, which is aggressive. And they're also looking at a $10 million endowment campaign in 2030, which will be the 100th anniversary of the building. The application also referenced some specific ways that they're trying to grow that contributed revenue through ticketed events, in order to both drive revenue and also to bring in new audience members. So just summarize, I think I may have run a little bit long. Overall, my impression was it was a really strong application, a lot of detail included. They gave some very specific examples of their planning and evaluation process and the way that they have attempted to engage audience members, both young and old, and to expand access to opportunity for folks to visit, removing financial barriers as well as caregiving barriers. They did speak, as I mentioned before, about some financial challenges that they're facing, but they were very specific in the ways that they're attempting to address those. That summarizes my comments.
Thanks, Erin. It did go a little long, but it was really thorough and really thoughtful, and I appreciate the work you put into that review. Let's open it up to our other panelists. Are there any strengths, areas for improvement, or just overall responses that you have that Erin has not yet expressed that you would like to add to the discussion here?
I'll make just a couple of quick comments
Thanks, David.
on the artistic vibrancy. I thought and she mentioned the education programs, but
Yeah.
K-12 learners emphasis was really interesting, but that they've actually included something, they've taken that to preschool level as well, I think is very noteworthy. In the artistic evaluation, where I made this note, but they had brought in the idea that extending the reach to Alzheimer's families. Again, a specialization that I think is a meaningful add. They highlighted in the impact, they included LGBTQ plus as a dimension. My little note to that was that I think that's both courageous and exceptional. So they appear to be working to recover from the patronage loss that they would have had as a function of the pandemic, and they have some financial hurdles to get over to continue to grow from that, or grow into that.
Yeah, thank you. Tony or Joy?
I would
You're
like
both-
to,
Yeah, thanks, Joy.
no problem. Yeah, I would like to just add that the feedback regarding the community engagement and building. The information that was provided regarding the partnerships with Black Boy Brilliance and Passport to Kindergarten, and just to piggyback on what David and Erin said, regarding the ability to I thought it was a strong ability to connect and show the community engagement, and how that was articulated to reflect the community. I thought that was well stated there. And I just wanted to incorporate also how the programs are diverse across the different ages, as you guys have already stated as well. From Alzheimer programs through the preschool programs, there shows a great diversity and variety of programming and outreach to the community.
Thank you, Joy. Tony, do you wanna wrap us up here or add anything?
I thought it was a good application. They do seem to have some financial concerns, and they need to get that in order before they can start their $10 million endowment campaign in 2030. I think. So it's good that they're taking steps to do that. I'm glad that they have all those collaborations. I wish that they would broaden them, and perhaps the Brilliant Black Boy is a program that could be expanded to include girls. And I think that it's important to do that. Girls have talent too.
Yeah.
That's it.
Thanks, Tony. Thank you. Your financial advising background, I think, came through on your comments.
Uh-oh.
No, that's a good thing. I'm glad you're here. We need multiple perspectives and areas of expertise at the table, so I thank you for your feedback. Okay, I'm gonna bring in Changa and Aaron Smith Glenn. Hang on just a moment. Okay. There they are. Okay. Welcome back, Aaron and Changa. I had trouble finding you for a minute there. But it's good to see your faces. Thank you. We're going to move now into our next organization, and that is Dayton Contemporary Dance Company, otherwise known as DCDC. And Gregory Changa Freeman is our primary reviewer for DCDC. Changa, can you take us into that review, please?
Yes, thank you. So, Dayton Contemporary Dance Company is an organization dedicated to pushing boundaries of contemporary dance and choreography by showcasing world-class contemporary performances. The strength of the application were its artistic and cultural vibrancy. The audiences appear to be engaged in the programming. The programming is contemporary and fresh. The artistic work samples were of high quality and standard, and the organization attempts to produce relevant programming for the area, such as highlighting the history of funk in the Dayton community. The programs reflect responsiveness to the feedback from the community, and the attendance levels are high. Areas of improvement could be strengthened in the evaluation tools and methods. The application content was more general in nature, and giving and citing specific illustrations to support the programs would greatly increase the impact of the application. The artistic personnel would also, that section would be strengthened by illustrating those persons as well as the roles that they play in the organization. Community impact. The application participation worksheet demonstrates consistently high levels of engagement and connection with community, however, highlighting again specific examples of partnering and collaboratives in the Miami Valley may improve this section. In the site visit, there was a high level of enthusiasm. The performances and the audience responses were very enthusiastic. The choreography was fresh. In fact, they premiered 3 new choreographic pieces for this season, which were well received by the audiences, as well attended. The execution was outstanding of the dancers, and overall the production was of superior quality. I yield back.
Ranga has yielded his time, and so we open the floor to our other panelists. And I will refrain from calling on people. I would like, we'll let you all take the lead at this point and let you have the discussion you want to have on DCDC. Now that we're 1 in, 2 in.
I'll lower my hand now. I very much echo Shanga's remarks. You really could not deny the audience's feedback throughout the entire performance. It was, I mean, even the feedback was fresh and open. It was a lot of call and response, but it didn't interrupt the program. So that was really great. It was very enthusiastic. I think it was a wise decision to collaborate with the Dayton Ballet, as it could bring both of their supporting audiences together in the hopes of increasing all areas for both organizations. The survey is very thorough, one of the more thorough ones I've seen from organizations, respectfully. And I enjoy that there's a survey for each performance instead of just an overall generic survey. I think when surveys are too vague, people fill out the survey and then they might think later of how they could have contributed, but theirs leaves very little room for vagueness. Great breadth in terms of strategizing on your artistic evaluation and innovation. The key personnel as well as the board is widely diverse, which I believe allows for a stronger sense of relational impact for the company and for the audience. And I think that was seen and felt. Being board members who are also active and actively engaged is a plus in maintaining relevance, I would say, in the community and in the state and beyond. And I believe, finally, with the assistance of the recent audit, as well as the newly obtained funds from the Mellon Foundation and other organizations, shows a very promising, sustainable future for DCDC. But yes, I too, what stood out to me as well was, well, I think it always stands out when the directors come and speak to the audience, but then the director also allowed time for people to come up to her in between performances and speak directly and give actual feedback directly to the director, which I think is really cool. So, yeah, that's all I have. I digress.
I was saying the organizational capacity, the sustainability, future initiative is a good thing. Using a third-party consulting firm to develop and refine their plan is probably a really good best practice. My look at the financials, just the projected revenue shortfall for the current fiscal year was concerning to me. But echo the comment about partnering with the ballet and the DCTC, and I also attended that performance, and the audience reaction was absolutely amazing. I thought it was a very full house in Victoria, and everybody was really engaged, really enjoyed the performance.
I could go next if you want me to. I think we should be so proud of DCDC. They're world renowned, and I'm very unhappy that they're in such poor financial shape. They need to find a way to get more funding. I don't know what that is. I'm not good at that. But they need to save themselves, because I went to that performance too, and I thought it was fabulous. They got standing ovations. And when I looked at the samples, I was equally impressed, because they're so innovative with their subjects. And I wonder, how can they think of all those things? But they really hit it on the head with the mental illness. I thought that was really good. But they need to find funding because we don't want to lose them.
Yeah. Joy, why don't you go? Your hand is out.
Okay. I would agree with everyone, and I visited the performance, and it was completely aligned. I agree with the artistic and cultural vibrance that was described in the programming and the collaboration. I do think, I agree with David in that I think creating a business partnership will help develop a stronger, detailed organizational plan and strategy for them, and that may help in creating a stronger financial interest moving forward, or opportunity for them moving forward. Overall, it was very descriptively detailed. I would have liked to have seen more data that supported some of the drivers.
Karen, I think you're the last one we're waiting on here.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I'd echo what everyone else said. David and Joy both mentioned the partnership with the consulting team. And if memory serves, the executive director is new-ish to her role. And I think they should be commended for investing in executive coaching. I think taking on that role is really challenging. And I commend the organization for investing in their staff. And I echo everyone else's comments about the finances. I would have liked to see a little bit more detail in the application about various ways that they're thinking about addressing those challenges. I highlighted, we must continue to make greater strides in the areas of individual and corporate and earned revenue, which is true. I just wish there was a little bit more detail about some of the ways they want to do that. The only other comment I would add from an audience perspective, one of the things I'm often very sensitive to is how welcoming the audience is when you bring a child. So I brought my 4-year-old, and it is not always welcome to have a 4-year-old in an audience. And the audience was incredibly welcoming, and that was appreciated as someone who really intentionally tries to expose youth to the arts.
Thank you, everyone. So just take maybe a minute or two if you'd like to make any comments you want to make about this discussion, or notes to self for our closed meeting after the session. And our next applicant is Dayton Performing Arts Alliance, otherwise known as DPAA. And our primary reviewer is Erin Smith-Glenn. So whenever you're ready, Erin.
Sorry, my bad. I was looking for something. Give me
No, you're good.
1 second here.
Take us in.
Wanted to-
We're maintaining a steady four minutes behind everyone, just an FYI, which is good because I'm the one who took us over by 4 minutes. What that means is you all are on time.
Oh, goody. Okay, I would like to start by reading the mission, vision, and work climate of DPAA. Dayton Performing Arts Alliance fundamental conviction is that the arts are for everyone. Our driving purpose is to inspire as many people as we can of every generation and background to fall in love with the arts. The first element of our strategic platform is to produce unique, memorable, artistic, and social experiences. The second is to make the arts universally accessible. It is our burning imperative to build and expand our audiences, and we ensure that everyone is welcome and included in our invitation. Okay, so now let me go back to, okay. All right, I would say that I want to start with the board. That's where I usually like to try to, go first. So the board and officers are diverse to a degree, well-rounded regarding a variety of artists. on the board. It's a very full board as well. The Philharmonic and Dayton Ballet Studio Company seems to be the least diverse. I'd like to really know what's being done to bridge the very wide gap. It just seems to be very much lacking in the diversity area. I will say that Aida was very culturally aware and appropriate overall, with the infusion of the all Black lead singers. It was also a venue that was very accessible. I believe that's always extremely important. Even though I have a car, whenever I host events myself, I'm always trying to consider, who making sure everyone can get there. So that was done very well. It is good to see the increased diversity among the directors, especially over the past 2 to 3 years. My hopes are that this diversity will continue to trickle down to the Philharmonic and the ballet, as I stated. Other than that, the innovation of programs and collaborations, including Rhythm of the City, I would say the reason why I like that particular collaboration is because it speaks to the Dayton funk history in the area that it's just nice to make sure we keep that particular engine going strong with regard to what was a very impactful point in history for the city of Dayton regarding the arts. The discounted tickets on occasions obviously is a smart move regarding trying to increase not just audience members, but also increasing in those areas where people may feel out of reach financially. And typically when things look out of reach financially, people can sometimes interpret that to mean, well, you just don't want me here then. So making things financially accessible is also a plus. Great job on the zero deficit policy. That's a major accomplishment. Regarding audience growth, I would like to know how that's being done, more specifically in the Dayton public school system, where students typically don't don't have self-representation in those particular areas of the arts. And I see that you guys are still discussing your bounce back from COVID, having to end an entire year of events and how that really brought you guys down, but that you're including newer directors to try to bring a more positive impact to that. I hope it works out for you in the end, but again, increased diversity would also be a great way to consider increased audience and increased revenue from a wider audience for future reference. The strategic plan, either I missed the fullness of it or it just was overall a bit too brief to fully gauge the quality of it. And finally, you all are clearly making strong efforts to sustain over time, even seeking the help of some other organizations have, seeking the help of outside consulting firms to try to figure out how to be more sustainable over time is always a really wise way to invest in yourself. However, though, when it comes to the survey, it is quite vague. And a couple of them do not fall in line with the whole merger of the 3 arts organizations that compose the Dayton Performing Arts Alliance. Number 6 only addresses the ballet, and I thought that was a bit concerning because I wasn't sure if maybe whoever designed the survey missed it or if that was something that you guys just have not thought to update, but it definitely needs some serious updates. And I feel like I stated that before a year ago, but please, forgive me if I'm wrong. Seek audience feedback on how to grow a larger audience. That's a tip that I would give you for maybe adding to the survey is ask the audience, how would you increase our audience? And with that, I digress.
Thank you, Erin, for getting the discussion started. We'll go ahead and open it up to the floor. What if everybody, if you kind of raise your hand when you're ready to go, and that might be a way to kind of determine. And okay, Changa's hand is raised, so take it away. Thank you. You're muted. You're muted.
There was recognition in the application in terms of the working towards a more diverse programming and inviting audiences into their performances. So they did, and I quote, "We recognize that not all members of our community have historically felt welcome or seen in the programming, and they are addressing that in a number of ways." And one was removing some of the barriers in terms of cost, celebrating the city's cultural identity was another way that they were addressing that, and ensuring that the board, staff, artists, musicians, volunteers reflect the community. So I think they're working on that, and they're to be commended for that. One thing that stood out to me with this current application is the recognition that the organization appeared to respond to feedback from previous panel reviews and incorporated some of those notes into how they're operating. There's an opportunity for the applicant to demonstrate additional details in its community impact with the data from its social media contacts and accounts. As far as its organizational capacity, the applicant cites that they were taking steps to improve upon the strategic plan and to align more closely with the interests of the community. I yield back.
Thank you. Thank
Me,
you.
may I
David?
jump in?
Yeah, of course.
A couple of things. In the when they identified that they're using a CRM, customer relationship management application to support the integrated artforms, is as a retired data management professional, I get excited about somebody doing something that is sort of state of the art practice for customer relationship management. I thought in that space, they also talked about artistic innovation that involves the ballet dancing American classics, the Philharmonic performing Broadway music, and the opera performing including American jazz, is really noteworthy in terms of bringing the three disciplines together and doing that.
Mhm.
My one concern with this was in their this is in the community impact discussion, and they had a fairly detailed, they went to some length describing the feedback that they had from the last year's Nutcracker. A quote from the applications: "While we value and appreciate our patrons' feedback, the elements they cited are a direct result of our driving purpose and remain committed to our values of belonging." To me, that sounds like a statement that the patrons' input, which was to be quite critical of literally, especially the second act of the Nutcracker, sounds like a statement that the patrons' input is not being incorporated into refinement of the next Nutcracker. I would be disappointed if that were the case. My final note is that they don't seem to have an explicit strategic plan, at least as I understood the application, and their circumstance, both audience recovery and continuing to grow and integrate the relationship among the three disciplines, is something that they would need to do that. Others that we've identified, have talked about, have used third parties, and so I guess I would encourage them to consider, hiring somebody to help them with their strategic planning activity.
Tony, I think your hand was up first, and then after Tony, we can go to Joy. Yeah. Oh, and then Aaron. Okay, I think that's the order.
Well, I think they are doing some things to get people there. The $5 tickets are quite a big boon, and their partnerships with United Rehabilitation Services, Daybreak, and St. Vincent de Paul, they're attracting new audiences. I agree. I missed the strategic plan, but I also understand that to hire somebody to do that is very costly, and they are working with a very tight budget right now. And so what I would hope is that they have a good board that has a lot of talent, and maybe they could just put together a strategic plan committee with their board members and staff, and at least get something on the board, if you know what I mean, get something on paper. That would be my suggestion. I think you have to have a strategic plan if you're going to survive. That's it.
I agree. I think one of the things that I was going to highlight was the strengthen the strategic plan, and how I would just have desired a little more data, just some more information that kind of backed up their organizational structure. That seems pretty good so far. The thing that really stood out to me that I wanted to highlight was when Aaron said there is a lack of diversity in the Philharmonic and Ballet, and I agreed with that completely. And I went back and I looked at the community engagement and building, and I do see that there is an opportunity where they're highlighting ways in which they're trying to incorporate more community engagement and diversity through that engagement. And I really thought that David took the quote right out of my mouth. When we remain committed to the values of belonging, I really thought that feedback was a direct impact and immediate innovation of programming and response to community, and how they are true to their values, but also willing to implement change that I think is so important in what we look for in art. And so I did appreciate them staying true to their values and also receiving that feedback as well. I think that was important.
Aaron?
Yeah, similar comments in the outreach and engagement with new audience. They did highlight in the application that their LCE program saw a 21% increase in the number of people impacted year over year, which is really, that's tremendous growth. And I think there must be some key partnerships that I would have liked to hear more about that is leading to that dramatic of an increase. And hopefully they'll continue down that pathway. I also wanted to echo some of what Joy said. And David, I'm happy that you brought up that particular section, because I also highlighted that section. I thought that was a really notable piece that they called out. And I thought it was really interesting that they spent as much time in the application as they did talking about the feedback. So they note that the Nutcracker surveys had a lower net promoter score, and that much of the feedback was related to that second act. And I think it really illustrates to me the thought and the intentionality with which they're engaging and wrestling with how do we remain innovative and vibrant while also being responsive to being, legacy art forms, essentially. And I really appreciated the detail that they included in the application in giving us the perspective of how they think about and how they react to the feedback they're receiving from the community.
Thank you, everyone. Really. Take a minute or two here just to review, maybe jot any notes to yourself for our final conversation when we enter the closed portion of this meeting today. Our next organization whose application is up for discussion is Discover Classical. And Erin, whenever you're ready, we'll begin that discussion.
All right, so Discover Classical is a nonprofit public radio station for the Miami Valley region whose mission is to celebrate and advance classical music and the fine arts using multiple technologies to enrich the lives of their listeners. They aim to make classical music accessible to all, whether through the FM dial or streaming online. And this year marks their 40th anniversary, which is exciting. In the artistic and cultural vibrancy section, the application articulated that the programming is focused on highlighting classical music and also local arts information. They reference several times that they are an entity that amplifies the work of other arts organizations, which I think is to be commended. They also reference their young talent search, and then also the instrument drive that they have in partnership with DPAA and Grismer Tires. They also, in the artistic and cultural vibrancy, talked about how they are, in honoring the 40th anniversary, they're digging into the archives and pulling out legacy interviews and legacy archives. And I thought that was a creative way to maybe reinvigorate and refresh some content. In the artistic evaluation and innovation section, I think they might be the only organization, and someone please correct me if I'm wrong, that spoke to not just doing a survey, but then also doing focus groups so they can get more in-depth feedback and more participatory feedback in addition to their surveys. In the community impact and engagement section, one of the things they really emphasized is the importance of being a public radio station and how important it is for that to eliminate socioeconomic barriers. And also as they speak about amplifying the work of other arts organizations, it makes, the work of the other arts organizations accessible to people who either don't have transportation or can't leave their houses for either medical reasons or transportation reasons. So they're really see themselves and position themselves in the application as an organization that expands access to the arts. And I think that's really important to highlight. In their community impact and engagement section, they spoke with some level of detail about the new initiatives they're engaged in to sustain their membership levels, including a new member touch points and a partnership with the Human Race Theater Company. They also talked in there about a focus on building partnerships. And I wrote down this quote, our desire is that by reaching out to all these partners, we can feature underrepresented arts groups and the people who create that art. They spoke about highlighting not just the performances of other arts organizations, but also doing interviews with the performers or the director or the conductor as part of their programming. And I thought that was really interesting to give the audiences a deeper understanding of the work. From an organizational capacity perspective, they seem to be, and the application spoke with a level of detail and pride about being a debt-free organization. They are also in a strong enough financial position that they are moving their offices to a new location, and they're projecting that they will be successful in that fundraising effort by the end of this year. So to kind of summarize my comments, they see themselves as an organization that celebrates classical music and amplifies the work of arts organizations in the area. They strive to be responsive to feedback from listeners through those surveys and focus groups, and they build new programming in response to that. It provides a point of accessibility for members for whom transportation or ability to pay limits access to the arts, and their financial position is stable, even with the major investment that they're undertaking.
Thank you very much, Erin. Thank you. Let's go ahead and open it up to the floor. She has yielded her time and welcome this discussion. Gregory. And then Tony.
Basically, three general comments. Number one, the application was written with precision and provides specific details of community programming, collaborations, engagement, and impact. The community outreach represents intentional strategies for engaging with youth in youth education and appreciation of classical music. They indicated a program fundraiser to bring instruments into the public school system so that the students could learn to play instruments. And I thought that was a great example of the community impact. And then lastly, the site visit, I learned of their plans to relocate and expand to a more prominent location, which will afford their ability to really serve the community at greater length.
Thank you. Go ahead, Tony.
Well, Changa, you just stole all my thunder. I really liked the same things that you did. That's what I was going to comment on. But the work samples were great. And they showed that they had programming to appeal to many different audiences. And as a person who used to drive home from work pretty late at night, I think the night music is a great idea. Plus, it gives the community an opportunity to relax and get ready for bed. So
yeah,
I'm sorry, Changa, you took it all.
Joy, and then Erin Smith-Glenn.
I think I thank you. I agree that the application was just very descriptive and deep and detail oriented, and it highlighted all the areas for me. So it was there was not much or there was not that much area for me to question. I really felt that the application showed strong relevance and sustainability through the art focus, the twice weekly interview through the art focus, the ability to spread across a wide segment of ages and age ranges and a group of people through the diverse works. I think they had a collaboration or a partnership with Dr. Jones, who was a Black elder. They highlighted that as well. And then upon the visit, we were able to see, we took a tour and we were able to really see a huge library of CDs. And they talked about the process of taking those CDs and just archiving them so that way that music never goes away. So that way we can always hear that. I thought that was so important in order to share music, just continue to share music across time. And again, to create and maintain that relevance. I thought that it was well written, and I really appreciated those different pieces that highlighted how they did that. And I also there was one thing that I talked about reaching back to the organizations in the community. In the reading program that they have through the Goodwill Easter Seals for their programs are really diverse, and I think that they touch a lot of different parts of the community. And I think that it's very important musically for us all to have and to hear how they've done that, and to know that they have been fiscally sustained so far, debt free, is kudos. So very nice to see through their organizational structure as well.
Thanks. Thanks, Joy. Aaron? And then David, I'm sorry, Aaron?
Yes. Hello. So I also really much enjoy just it being live all the time. And someone else stole my comment about the softer music at night, which I very much enjoy. And I noticed that you guys have collaborated with other institutions like Wright State University and University of Dayton. But in order to continually increase diversity, because I don't really see it among the board, and therefore we don't see it in terms of the institutions. There are two extremely historically Black institutions that are not far from Dayton Classical that have renowned music programs, choirs. They are internationally renowned. And reaching across to Wilberforce and Central State University, I think, would definitely have a strong impact for the future, because we have, I don't know about Wilberforce, but I know Central State has a radio station. It would be nice to maybe even see a collaboration with Central State's radio station and Dayton Classical, in order to increase awareness, diversity, inclusion, representation, all of those things. So I would highly recommend taking on that task for future reference. Thank you.
Just two quick comments. Their statement that they remain debt-free and have both savings and an endowment, and so far as I could tell from the application, including their revocation, they're not using those savings or endowment. They're having those in a reserve. So that's a very, very healthy financial situation. My last little comment is just, while the scope of WDPR's offers may seem narrow, classical music, their community outreach and impact is really impressive.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We have reached our first break for today. We're going to take 15 minutes here, and we will reconvene actually at 12 p.m. So it's actually now a 10-minute break. I apologize. Originally it was 15, but we went a little over. So we'll come back at noon, and please, everyone, get your beverages and whatever you need to make it through the rest of this day. Panelists, please mute and turn off your cameras, but don't actually exit the session. Okay. We're waiting on Aaron Smith Glenn and Gregory Chonga Freeman, and then we will restart everyone.
Sorry, I thought it was on and it wasn't.
Oh, no, you're fine. I saw the hand raised, but I was like, I know she's out there. All right, welcome back, everyone. And welcome to the second half of our review of the general operating support applications. In this round, we will be reviewing applications for the Human Race Theater, K-12 and Tejas, Muse Machine, and the Springfield Symphony Orchestra in that order for about 15 minutes each. So with no further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Chonga, you are our primary reviewer for the Human Race Theater's application. Could you please start off our discussion about their application?
Yes, the Human Race Theater Company is a regional theater company based in the Dayton community. They have a 5-show season that maintains a balance of classical works with modern, innovative, and provocative performances. Evidence of this is their current production of Camelot. The set design, everything within that production seemed modern and current, and it aligns with their stated goals and mission. At the site visit, and I'm starting there, the production was top tier, quality performances, the choreography, the set design, the lighting, the staging, everything was really well done. The audiences appeared to be engaged, and the venue was appropriate and inviting. The volunteer staff were courteous and engaging with the guests. The evaluation, the strength in the application on the evaluation was the retention of its box office memberships, and they provided data that supported 92% subscription renewal rate during the 2024 and 2025 season. The feedback that they received from the audiences and talkbacks with the audiences helps them to inform future programming, and the audiences are able to engage with the performers, the production advisors, and the staff after the performances. Community engagement and impact. They featured in the application the playwrights race, a 24-hour challenge, creating pop-up performances that are free to the public at Downtown Dayton's Art in the City Festival. And they distribute 814 free or reduced price tickets through accessibility initiatives, ensuring that the attendance is not restricted by income. So they have a pay what you can night, parents night out, Dayton Metro Library partnership, discount seating. They perform outreach with veteran communities, as well as United Rehabilitation Services. So their community impact is strong. An area of improvement is the organizational capacity. The application indicated that they are currently working with a consultant to finalize their strategic plan, but it was unclear where they are in terms of progress towards the strategic plan. And parts of the information of the application were unclear. They mentioned raising $150,000 in new equipment funds to complete an infrastructure improvement. So that was kind of unclear in terms of, was the value an in-kind value, or was this a monetary donation which would enable them to complete the infrastructure? So those were questions in that area. Overall final thoughts: the application cites examples of programming and collaboration, the notable standard tools and criteria used to assess artistic success, and feedback to develop innovative programming. Attaching a draft version of the strategic plan in development could clarify and strengthen the organization capacity section. And I've already indicated the quality, the high quality of the performance of Camelot. And I yield back.
David, I think I saw your hand, and then Aaron Smith.
A quick comment is I had the opportunity in 1961 to see the original Broadway production of Camelot with the original cast of characters, Richard Burton et al. And I thought this performance, which I attended, was absolutely a compressed version, told the story well, and just was extremely well done. I guess my other thought is to echo what was been stated about the strategic plan. It seems to me they need to put a little more emphasis on that.
Aaron. Thanks, David. I think were you finished? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Finished.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Aaron, go ahead.
Yes, I definitely wanted to speak specifically to the parents' night out that they have, because as a mother of 3, and yeah, I can remember oftentimes with just other events in the past deciding not to go because I simply did not have anyone to watch my kids. I don't live near family members like that. And so to offer up something like that, I think will just allow parents of any kind of economic background, because it doesn't matter what your economic background is, kids can be disruptive and kids need watching over no matter what your economic background is. So I applaud you guys for that effort. I hope that other organizations might have the ability and capacity to adopt that same idea for future reference.
Thanks.
If I can also interject, I think the
Yeah.
focus of those parents' night outs and providing the children, not just providing childcare, but providing them the opportunity to engage in the arts, I think is a great way that Human Race Theater Company is extending their mission as well.
Tony?
I really like that too, the parents' night out. I thought that was a great idea. I did not see a current formal strategic plan, but they have made it up by exceeding their sales, rising $150,000 in income in 2025. But maintaining a no debt position is really important. And I'm so glad to see that, because I know now that they will be around in the future. That's good news.
Joy?
I'm also in alliance with the community engagement impact. I think that the parents' night out is a brilliant idea and a way to really engage all people in the community. And there was a part in where they spoke about community engagement and how they wanted to increase their engagement with the community or their partnerships with the community. I did want to highlight that I appreciated how they recognize that there is maybe not so much of a strong partnership and how they're seeking opportunities and ways to increase those partnerships. I am curious about the educational programs. Since through our educational programming, we seek to invite audiences to experience the arts and to cultivate creative storytelling, writing skills, and empathy within our community. And there were other classes and skills that they highlighted, and I was just curious as to where, what type of areas those educational programs were reaching.
Good. Erin, did you have more to say?
I did, yes.
Okay, wonderful.
I wanted to highlight in the partnerships in the application and speaking about the partnerships, they highlight, the thoughtful and targeted marketing, and they spoke with some level of detail about the initiative to outreach to the Iranian community and to have the home cooked meal, so the whole theater smelled, and so that it was more of an immersive experience, and then engaged representatives in that talk back as well to make it not just a theater going experience, but an opportunity for folks to experience a new culture or people who are from that culture to feel at home, which I thought was really interesting. And then they also spoke about their partnership with the Ohio Renaissance Festival and their $10 cosplay and sing-along performances, both of which I thought were really creative ideas and really good examples of how to be thoughtful and really targeted in the community that you're trying to engage as new audience members.
Thank you, everyone, for your feedback on Human Race Theater. We have maybe about a minute here left to the 15 for you to take whatever notes you need. Just as reminders for our closed session directly after the public portion of today's meeting. And any thoughts you have about that? And with that, Erin, whenever you're ready to start us off on our conversation about K-12 and TAKOS's application, we are ready for you.
Okay, let me go back up to the top of this page.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so the K-12 Tejas Gallery. Our mission is to inspire people of all ages to imagine, learn, and create art in a unique and encouraging environment. This mission was realized to fulfill a community need to increase art accessibility for all Miami Valley residents, regardless of age, ability, or ability to pay. K-12 and Tejas is a visual arts center offering innovative art programs for all ages and abilities in the Miami Valley. All right, so let me go back to my notes so I can remember. Okay. All right. So to start, as always, I enjoy the vast amount of local organizations and institutions that you guys collaborate with. I am excited to see that some of the DPS schools are now beginning to be more incorporated. I noticed that historically it's more of the private institutions that are being looked at. So I see that you guys are working now with, or planning to work with, Thurgood Marshall. And so I think that's a positive thing. And I want to go back to that in a second, but I wanted to recite a quote that I saw. Social emotional learning is the process through which children and adults acquire and effectively apply the knowledge, attitudes, and skills necessary to understand and manage emotions, set and achieve positive goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain positive relationships, and make responsible decisions. I really very much appreciate this pilot program you guys have, so that you guys are strategically targeting youth that have mental health challenges. I think it's very commendable. And in lieu of that, I want to go back to my initial statement about incorporating more of the Dayton Public Schools. The students in the Dayton Public Schools, I think, is pretty known amongst us, and if not, it is now, that many of the students there do suffer with mental health challenges because a lot of the lack of resources and assistance that's provided for them. And it seems that if we're going to reach students that have mental health issues through organizations that, maybe target that, then maybe we could also incorporate more DPS schools. And I'm thinking maybe one way to do that might be switching out or kind of trading out one of the traditionally served schools to bring in another Dayton public school in addition to Thurgood Marshall, so that you guys, because it looks like you guys are taking the mental health very seriously. I think us artists, we understand how it very much serves our mental well-being, and not just artists, but anyone can benefit from having a creative outlet in their lives. All right, so let me go back to where, oops, I didn't mean to open that. Sorry, you guys.
I didn't see it.
That's okay. Well, I saw it on my end, my bad. Okay. Sorry, I had like one more major comment to add. Oh, I see that you guys are adding the art market in order to help with funding, in addition to the art off, which is a really cool and unique experience offered to the Dayton community. I've even, had some friends specifically say things like, I don't really enjoy going to the club, so it's really nice to have an event like this in terms of like, other traditional and maybe less desirable forms of nightlife, where you're still getting maybe some of those things from the nightlife with the added touch of, more arts inclusion, which I think is a really positive thing. I would say when it comes to the strategic plan, I see that you guys are trying to work more towards having an actual board, because I noticed that a lot of the board members are repeated throughout the staff and whatnot. And while I do like seeing that, with this being a very grassroots kind of organization, started by a local artist, and also having a family member help out with that, maybe having a more established board of trustees, board members would help just overall with everything, with planning, definitely with the strategic planning. I would say maybe continue to work more on that so that you guys can continue to make positive strides in the financial sector of the organization as well. And that's all I have right now. I digress. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. That was exactly 5 minutes as well, like boom, yeah. So let's open it up to the floor and welcome a conversation about K-12 and Tejas and their application. Tony, I see your hand.
Yep. They need to figure out a better way to get their surveys completed. They didn't have very good participation. I think they only got 15 people to do the survey. Maybe it's too complicated. Also, the Miami Valley Child Development Program, I thought that was commendable. The fact that they changed the program because transportation was going to be a problem. So they made it a Saturday program where it was the child plus an adult could participate. And it seemed to me like that would make a whole lot of sense. That's it.
Thank you. Good. Changa? Oh, you're muted. You're muted. We missed all that wisdom. You have to restart.
Okay, I would just add that these comments are about the site visit. I went to visit the location and participated in an arts activity, and I saw that not only was I, but other participants who were there were highly engaged in the work that they were doing, and the time just lapsed so quickly. It's a lot of vibrancy, a lot of energy in the place, and a sense of accomplishment from the participants who are there because they are creating art. And I took note of that. Another thing that I learned during the site visit is that the K-12 continues to take steps towards securing its viability and impact in the community by purchasing property next to the current facility. So there's some plans there and growth there. The evidence in the application suggests that the organization applied feedback from prior reviewers panels to strengthen the application that's presented today.
Thank you. Thank you. It's helpful to have people come back to the panel for these kinds of comments, as well as the fresh perspective. So I appreciate the balance of this discussion that all of you are presenting. Joy, Aaron, or David, do you want to add anything? David, I see your mic is you're unmuted. So
Well, I did a visit there. I've driven by that place probably a bazillion times in the 30 years that I've been in Dayton, and was absolutely an eye-opening experience. They have material resources to have everything from blown glass to it's just amazing the breadth of things that their students can engage in. And in talking with the young man who kind of toured me around, they literally go from not just K-12, but even preschool to seniors in terms of the people who participate. I'm just very impressed with that. And they seem to have, I did not see a concern about the strategic plan or board, to tell you the truth, but they do seem to have a very good perspective on sustainability goals, and they have a whole diverse mechanisms for raising money, from literally charging for classes up to and um, um, foundation support and other things like that. So I, I I see them as just kind of a gem of the Dayton arts community.
thank you. Anyone else want to add to this discussion? We're okay with that? Okay. Let's take a minute here to go ahead and update any scores or write any notes to yourself for when we shift into the closed portion of our meeting today. Thank you, everyone. Are we good? Are people ready? Okay, wonderful. We're gonna start 3 minutes early. For the Muse Machine, our next applicant, Gregory Changa Freeman is the primary reviewer for the Muse Machine. Changa, could you please start off our discussion about this application?
Yes, thank you. The Muse Machine is an arts education organization that serves students and their teachers year-round through arts integrated residencies, dynamic in-school and out-of-school performances. The strength of the application in terms of its artistic vibrancy is that the students are engaged on multiple levels in the productions. They participate in the writing, they participate in the performance and making the decisions about how the performances will go. The Muse Machine for the 2024-2025 in-school programming featured singer Ayana Gregory, an activist and a singer, the Dayton Opera, the Dayton Contemporary Dance Company, Cincinnati Shakespeare, and performances by local musician Louis Armstrong, Dean Simmons, who performed as Louis Armstrong and gave a history of music, as well as being accompanied by Richard Bagel of the Dayton Philharmonic. So the ways in which they introduce performance, music, theater, visual art, storytelling to the students are very creative and dynamic in nature. The evaluations were also strong with a variety of methods to seek feedback from the students, from the teaching artists, and the community as well. The notable types of surveys and evaluations were what they call daily check-in forms to gauge the level of engagement with the members, and a post-institute survey and a third-party evaluation report completed by a professional evaluator. So they are on top of seeking the feedback necessary to keep them relevant in their programming. The community engagement piece, they are in 50, they provide 50 arts integrated residencies, 130 performances in secondary schools, and discounted tickets. Their out-of-school program provides for discounted purchases of tickets to the Dayton Performing Arts Alliance, the DCDC, Human Race, Dayton Live, Wright State, and Sinclair. And they partner with the United Rehabilitation Services to bring arts integrated residencies to preschool and adults with learning and disabilities. They have also an outreach with the East End Community Services after-school program, Miracle Workers, that conducts a 70-student children's choir led by Muse Machine teaching artists. Their organizational capacity, the strength of this section is the staff participated in SWOT-based strategic planning and session to refine programs and organizational goals. The executive director and strategic planning chair synthesized the feedback from all the groups to develop a framework for that the staff could expand into specific tactics and measurable outcomes. And with that, they mentioned their endowment, which was well-funded, and they worked with the Dayton Foundation and the Catering Trust in terms of their finances, and the fundraising campaign to support school access to Muse programming. The site visit, I went to the performance of the students. They were at a Catholic school, and number one, I applauded the teachers in keeping all of these young people connected to the performance because they were kind of all over the place, but he was able to bring them back and they accomplished the goal. But also in the production, they participated in writing the play that they produced and the singing, and they were given, in some instances, leadership roles. So it was a very enjoyable and enlightening evening going to that performance. And I yield back.
That was a good name. That was a good note to end on with your initial comments as our primary reviewer. So thank you for that, Changa. And let's go ahead and open it up. Aaron, I didn't see who came first, so I'm going to say Aaron and Tony, and we'll do it in alphabetical order that way.
Aaron.
For both of your names, both names work out that way.
All right. Well, I think the piece that I really want to highlight from their application is just the how expansive their reach is. They highlight that they're impacting students and teachers across 8 counties. And when you look at the numbers that they're sharing, I'm getting, 56,000 students participating in their programs, plus 150 teachers, and then all of the students that those teachers are impacting. It really is tremendous. I think the other piece I would highlight, the application speaks to specific focus in increasing support for Title I schools. And I had it highlighted somewhere, what percentage. I think it's 47% of the primary and elementary schools and 64% of its secondary schools are Title I schools. And they should be commended for that as well.
Thanks, Aaron. Good notes to add. Tony, do you want to go next, and then David?
I also attended the Muse Machine performance. It was very short, but it was very exciting, and the kids were so enthusiastic. I'm sure that it was a challenge to keep them under control. Background, bringing them down. What I'm so impressed about is that with all this broad reach that they have across all these counties, they only have 5 full-time employees. They have 3 contractors and 4 part-time people, but they have 205 volunteers. So that says a lot about the program. When I was at NCR in the 1980s, Suzanne Bassani was the one who started this program, and I was in advertising, and I had the opportunity to interview her for an article for NCR's publication. And I know NCR was very instrumental in funding this in the beginning, and I'm sure she would be so pleased to see how it has not only survived, but grown and thrived. It was a great idea that she brought from another community. and we grabbed it. So that was lucky for us.
Thank you, Tony. David, I think you had your hand up or gestured before, so.
Yeah. Well, I too attended the
We were all
the performance, and I echo the observation about, you know, hurting a large community of fourth graders to have them execute both singing, dance. They had scripted the materials, and all. My understanding is that was all the product of 1 week of activity with the teachers, the instructors for those fourth graders, plus the Muse Machine facilitator. It was they literally filled the bleachers in the gymnasium with families and people there, and there's just nothing I could say that it wasn't an amazing experience. The other thing that echo something that Tony May was just saying, which is their leadership bios that got included here are just very impressive. They have some people who have been at this for a good little while. They're dedicated to it. And then they've got a diverse portfolio of artists who participate with them. It's very impressive.
Joy, your hand is up. Thanks, David.
Thank you. I was completely blown away as well by the artistic vibrancy and level of professionalism that was displayed for the performance, especially for the age level that we saw. I thought that the kids did a wonderful job, like I said, in memorizing their lines and staying professional and staying on key. It's definitely a performance that I would revisit again. And I think that it ties into like the community engagement, and I'm going to quote a little bit of the application when they said the second goal of residency was artists will differentiate instructional techniques to involve all participants, use active and experiential learning, and inspire them to engage in future arts experiences in the community. That performance spoke to all of us because it talked about mental health and life and how we all can just process through those things. And I appreciated how the community engagement tied back into the OLS program, and that there were teachers that went through a 4-day experiential professional day for educators, and how it's all aligned and tied back into the program itself, and how it's all implemented throughout. I think the they're highlighted 4 different groups specifically in which they wanted to target, from the teachers to the students to artists, and I forget the fourth one. I'm sorry, but there were. I think it really addressed those 4 elements in tying into true collaboration and engagement for the development and progress from what the program is about.
Thanks for that comment. It helped me to hear you talk about that as the director of grant making and impact, which is that how do you tie the site visit into actually the application? And you did that really well when you went from your experience to quoting their application and kind of tying those things together. So I appreciate that effort, Joy, and I've made a mental note for myself to use that as an example for future panels. Aaron, would you like to be our final discussant on the Muse Machine?
I guess so, since I think I was the only one that was sadly unable to attend. So I had to I was so sad. I had to rely on a lot of my own research, but it's all good. I do want to say that I really enjoy, once again, the reach. I think everybody keeps expressing that, but that is so important. You guys are like a model organization for reaching across communities, I would say, and incorporating students of all backgrounds. But, you know, I'm definitely noting the underserved student reach, which I think is extremely important. I think for me personally, I was one of the lucky ones that made it as far as I did into the arts. I think just based on mostly ambition and drive, because I didn't have this kind of exposure to the arts when I was a kid. So, you know, I was one of the lucky ones, but most people don't have that kind of, you know how to just go out and get it, you know. And so you guys are going out and giving it, which I think is really commendable. I do enjoy the audience surveys, but I think more importantly, I really enjoy the surveying of the teachers. That is super important to know how they're responding to it as well. And I think I would even, because of the positive feedback that's seems to be given from the teachers, I'd like to even maybe for future reference see what that survey looks like for the actual teachers that are filling out their own surveys. Because I know we just saw the audience end of the survey, which was a very in-depth survey, and I really like how I don't know, it's a very empathetic survey as well. And I'm just curious now, you know, like, well, I wonder what these teachers surveys. So I would maybe consider that for future reference, since you are making it widely known to us that you survey the teachers and that they're saying, you know, in your report that 100% of the teachers, you know, are really in favor of what you guys are doing. Well, I would really like to see what the measurement tool is for that. I digress.
Thank you, everyone. So we have a minute or two here before our next applicant for you to take whatever notes you want to take or to review the scores that you have so far for Muse Machine, and then we will move on to Springfield Symphony Orchestra before our lunch. Everybody good? Okay. Well, Erin, you were last the last time and first this time as the primary reviewer. Will you please introduce Springfield Symphony Orchestra and begin our discussion as the primary reviewer?
Yep. Give me one sec. I don't want to take too much time. Okay. Almost there, sorry. The mission of the Springfield Symphony Orchestra is to enrich the lives of the people in Springfield and the surrounding region by presenting quality performances of symphonic music and jazz music and providing excellent education programs. The vision of the Springfield Symphony Orchestra will be respected as a premier performing arts organization, a responsible and accountable business enterprise, and a vital cultural leader in our community. So I'm going to go back to, okay. So I had the pleasure of attending the event last month with Gustav Mahler's Fifth Symphony Orchestra as the featured event for that evening. And I wanted to, of course, start with the board members. So I noted that you have 21 board members. I see a gradual increase in diversity there, so I'm hoping that that continues over time. And it looks like overall the diversity is increasing anyway, with inclusion of such events like hip opera. I even learned a lot by attending the Gustav Mahler's fifth. I thought that was a step in the right direction with both of those, especially hip opera, concerning younger, more diverse audiences, and having representation where it once did not exist and was very largely ignored. So to see the inclusion of that, I think was a major move and probably even a model move, I would say, including students, and especially including non-art students through such resources as the Braxton Miller Foundation, I think is a really strong move. Because I mean, Braxton Miller being an athlete and, just making sure that students that are maybe don't have an interest in the art but still have exposure to the art, I think is extremely crucial because nobody really knows what they have interest in until they're exposed to it. I would say good work incorporating basic education into the orchestra's community collaborations with such collaborations as the local library, making music just a standard part of basic education, I think is a given. The event schedule looks diverse and engaging as well. I do look forward to attending more of the events in the near future. Oh, by the way, going back to the Gustav Mahler, the orchestra event, one thing that stood out to me, maybe because as an artist that I was really impressed with, was seeing that local artists had taken instruments and painted on them, and that you guys had a auction set out so that people could purchase the music inspired artwork. That was a really creative, unique, fun, exciting. It stood out. Having just a variety of things to kind of look at throughout the night, like being able to take selfies with the original painting of Gustav Mahler and things of that nature, I think is a really good way to engage multiple senses when it comes to the audience. But in particular, what really stood out to me, dare I say even more than the event, was the display of the music-inspired art that was for auction. The survey system is less than ideal, however, respectfully. The email method should be probably considered alongside other evaluation tools, such as text surveys. I noticed that since you guys seem to like to include visuals around the performing arts event, then maybe having a sign with a scan code is what I'm seeing more organizations do nowadays, so that on the way out, you can scan it. You won't miss the survey. They're more likely to probably do it on the spot or during breaks or right after the event if maybe you have a more up-to-date survey system. So I would highly recommend updating that. And lastly, I would love to make it out to the Juneteenth event, but unfortunately, it seems everybody does all their Juneteenth events on June 19th instead of spreading it around. This is something that I've actually been talking to some friends, like why do we spread out all the Christmas events throughout the month of December and probably even before December, and all the Halloween events and all of the other holidays except for Juneteenth. And I think part of that could be possibly because it's still a newly recognized holiday, but maybe one way that you can get more outside communities to come out and see this renowned, orchestra is by maybe having an event that's not directly on Juneteenth. And I digress.
Thank you, Erin, for getting us started. Tony, I see your hand.
Got to get off mute.
That always helps.
I thought their survey was pretty good because it included the artists. And they gather artists from all over. And I think that's really good that they included the artists. They have free classroom materials and interactive performance opportunities for students, in addition to jazz education for students, which I think is really a great thing. Overall, I thought it was a very well-written application. And I was very impressed when I went to the performance that they spent quite a few minutes talking about CultureWorks and the support that we give them. And I didn't see any other organization do that. when I went to the organization. They thank their donors, but nobody ever said, Culture Works is very important to our community and we encourage you to support them.
Thanks. Aaron Culp and then Gregory.
Yeah, a couple of things that I wanted to highlight from the application. The Tunes and Tales initiative and the collaboration that they highlighted between Clark County Public Library, the composer Evan Williams specifically focused in introducing children to orchestral music and building a multisensory experience that deepens young listeners' connection to literature and live performance. I thought that was a really unique way of engaging new audience members in a multidisciplinary way, and really wanted to commend that. The other piece that I really appreciated in the application, they were very specific and included an anecdote of a way that they modified their performance times based on audience feedback. And so I thought it was really helpful to see that they are being responsive to the feedback they get in those surveys.
Thanks, Aaron. Changa.
My comments are along the lines of Aaron's. The application evidence of impact and innovation. What really stood out in this application for its artistic vibrancy was the lunch on the lawn. I like the idea of music outdoors, and it's a method of attracting new audiences and new ears when you have that kind of event outdoors. The other thing that impressed me was the collaboration with the Tunes and Tales and highlighting one of the authors, Jason Reynolds, who's a popular author at this time, and weaving the text in his book into a musical format. And I think that's innovative, interesting, and also timely.
Yeah. Thank you. David or Joy, I think you're the two who are left. Do you have anything to add to the discussion about the Springfield Symphony Orchestra?
I was just very impressed with the resume and the tenure of their leadership. They've been at it for a good little period of time, and as a couple of places that we've spoken of today, they're blessed with material endowment resources, so they have to fundraise and have some innovative ways, it seems, of doing that. But they also have some deep pockets, which is going to keep them around for a while. And then at that, they were still looking for new grant opportunities. So I think they're, to me, that you have a core resource, arts resource, but in Springfield. So it's, it's not stuck in the middle of the Miami Valley. It's, at some little distance to the north. Anyway, I thought their application was very impressive.
Thank you. Thank you. Joy, do you want to add anything, or do you feel like your comments have been covered?
I definitely think my comments have been covered. The performance was absolutely phenomenal. I am in alliance, I think, with what Aaron was talking about in the beginning about the diversity expansion through the music from jazz and the June 19th event. But I do appreciate the diversity and community impact through the Link Up program that they were discussing. I thought that was really nice, and how it impacts so many students. I think it says musical experience for 1,200 students. Some of them, ultimately, this is their first time in the musical or orchestral experience. And so I thought that was really important to learn. I just remember some of my first experiences in an orchestra environment or an orchestral environment. And so I really, I thought that that was impactful in helping kids understand art in diverse ways.
Thank you, everybody.
And
Um,
one additional little note. I just
Sure, of course.
they had in their text, ultimately, our goal is to create an experience where audiences not only enjoy the music, but also find personal meaning in it.
Yeah.
I, my note to myself here was that's a very interesting aspiration. I wonder how you actually measure something like that.
I think that's interesting that you highlighted that too, David, because as an artist, I think that we all want to try to find the personal meaning and the personal interests and what the audience sees from an artistic perspective. So I think that's interesting that you highlighted that.
Wonderful. A good comment to end on about the arts and finding meaning, and kind of a good reminder of why we are all here today and doing what we do. So thank you, everybody. We have reached our lunch break, which will last from 1 o'clock until 1:30. And when we return, we will review the community arts development applications, the Bach Society and the CO for those two organizations. Panelists, if you will please mute and turn off your cameras rather than actually exit. And we will see you all back in 30 minutes. Yes. 2 more, you all. You're doing great. How's it feel? Feeling it? Awesome. Thanks to each and every one of our 6 panelists for their work as you are wrapping up the public portion of our panel review today. I know you've spent a lot of time and a lot of thought on your written feedback. And this is just a reminder to everyone in the room with us that applicants do receive, in addition to access to this discussion via video and Zoom, they also receive a copy and paste of the panelists' written feedback on the application, notes which they refer to during this meeting, but don't always have the time to get through every aspect of it. So applicants do also receive that copy of the written feedback before July, when the onboarding process begins with the grant agreements. So I want to thank our panel and just remind you that while we're wrapping up today, the impact of this review and your time and your insight and comments will continue to be felt as we move forward through the review process. So we'll be going on beyond just today. But let's go ahead and take some time at this point to return to our 2 community arts development applications. And the first of those is the Bach Society. And Erin Culp, would you start us off with that discussion as the primary reviewer?
Be happy to.
Thank
So
you.
the Bach Society of Dayton's is their mission is to bring awe-inspiring choral music to the Dayton region by performing sacred and secular choral music to inspire and nurture future generations of choral singers. When we get into their artistic and cultural vibrancy section of the application, they speak to innovation through collaboration and the practice of commissioning new artworks. So it seems that they, in the application, like they're striving to bring a balance of classic pieces while also innovating and commissioning new work. They mention several times in the application their young composers competition in particular. And they highlight that the final concert of the 2025-2026 season will feature a less Eurocentric program with a Latin American, South American dance themed program in partnership with DCDC. That sounds really exciting. I'm looking forward to hearing more about that as it approaches. They also highlight past collaborations with Stivers School for the Arts, Central State University Chorus, Jeremy Winston Choral, Human Race Theater, and a treble soloist from the Cincinnati Boy Choir this season. Looking at their artistic evaluation and innovation section, one of the things that they spoke about in this section and throughout their application was a newly launched complementary childcare program. And what I thought was interesting about this is that they're making childcare available not just for their audience, but also for all of their artists. So they're providing free childcare for rehearsals as well as performances, as part of a specific strategic focus to bring in younger singers. And then they provided evidence in the application that they had gotten, I think it was 12 singers between the ages of 20 and 70 newly within the last season. And I think in large part, having that childcare, not only for rehearsals, but also for performances has been part of the reason for that. One of the other focuses on community engagement that they highlighted in the application was the favorites concert that they had. And this is a year or 2 ago, but they actually invited audience members to submit suggestions for the concert, which I thought was also a really great way of engaging the community, engaging your audience, and then being responsive to them as you're building that program. Looking forward, one of the other key pieces they highlighted in the application was the expansion of their performances to Troy with the Palm Sunday 2025 performance of Handel's Messiah at the Arbogast Performing Arts Center. That was something the application speaks to very specifically as trying to engage a larger geographic reach for their audience. They should be commended for that. Looking at organizational capacity, they identify and they've engaged, they have a very lean staff, and they speak in the application about having engaged outside counsel in building a strategic business plan and then also their marketing plan. So that's a great way for them to extend their limited resources by engaging a third party. They had some key goals in terms of expanding skill and engaging more diverse singers as part of their strategic plan, increasing attendance, growing revenue, and strengthening the board and community partnerships. They gave some really good specific details of progress they'd made in each of those areas. So to, I think, summarize, I'm looking to see if there was anything else I had highlighted, but I don't believe there is. They did highlight that they have a balanced budget and no debt, which they should be commended for. It's hard to run an arts organization with a balanced budget, full stop. Overall, my impression was that this was a strong application. As I mentioned at the top, in the area of innovation, they talked about kind of bridging the gap between providing the classic pieces that the audience that's familiar and committed to their mission would be looking for, while also looking at ways to innovate and engage new artists or represent new regions and bring new types of choral music to their established audience. They gave some good examples of how they were responsive to the feedback received, and had some good examples within the objectives of their strategic plan and their finances. Welcome other comments.
I have a quick question. I am getting feedback that my internet is unstable. Everybody froze. I came back. You were all talking like you could hear each other the whole time. And then I froze. And then I got booted out. And then I reappeared. So I just want to make sure that you all could hear each other and were ongoing that whole time. You were. Okay. And what I don't know for those applicants and who are in the room, I don't know what that means for our recording. But hopefully we got all of that lovely, powerful feedback from Aaron. And please bear with me in case that happens again. If I disappear or I freeze up, you just keep doing you, and I'll find a way back in. Okay. All right. Thank you. I have no idea whose hand went up, so I'm just going to go across my screen left to right, and we'll go Changa, Tony, and Joy. Okay. All right. Thank you, each of you.
He'll steal my thunder. I know he will. You're muted. Uh-oh, you're muted.
Okay, now can you hear me? I'll try not to steal your thunder. So my comments will be brief. In terms of, and Aaron did a great job with the application and underscoring key points in the application. I concur that the application strategic plan appears realistic. The financial documents to support the sustainability of the organization appear sound, and Aaron stated the goals in the plan. For my overall comment, I just wanted to encourage the applicant to explore further its efforts to reach younger audiences with innovative contemporary works, and consider how its interest assessment surveys may inform their approach with presenting contemporary works. And the site visit was the performance of Handel's Messiah. It was well attended, and the audience was enthusiastic, and it was very enjoyable. And I'll yield back.
Hey, well, you didn't quite steal my thunder this time, Sandra. I noted that they were renewing Sing Dayton, which would answer your question, Chandra, that they're going to have all ages sing. So that's good.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be hard for them to do contemporary works, I would think, because they're named the Bach Society. And when people donate or go to the Bach Society, they expect classical work. So I think it's going to be really hard to do contemporary, although they could probably work it out. They increased their ticket sales by 29% in 2023-24, which I thought was really, really good. But I was most impressed with their collaborations because they broadcast on WDPR at least 3 of their performances, and I think they do them live, which is either that or rebroadcast, I'm not sure. But they also collaborate with Central State Children's Kettering Children's Choral and DPAA and DCDC. So they really are doing a great job collaborating, and they have no full-time employees, which I think that's amazing. So I did note that they have a lot of contributors. So there are a lot of people who like Bach and like classical music. And so I think they're probably going to stick with that because they have a lot of dedicated donors, and the donors' income or the contributed income is more than their ticket sales. So they want to keep them happy, and that would be a way to do it. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. Aaron? Or actually, I said, I can't remember anymore.
There was like at least one other person ahead of me.
Okay, I think it was Joy. Joy.
It's okay. I really just raised my hand because I wanted to say I experienced the same technical difficulty that you experienced.
Oh, you did? Okay.
But I did want to highlight some positives that I noticed from the collaboration with the new artworks. I did want to concur with John when he said about the Young Composers Competition and talking about the partnership as well that Aaron highlighted with the DCDC partnership. I am looking forward to that diversity in the collaboration. I think I am curious in the community impact as to like what specific collaborations support integrating performers from diverse traditions and disciplines from the application that they highlighted. I was just curious to understand a little more detail as to what that programming looked like and how what type of impact they were making in the community.
Aaron?
Yes. So I just wanted to start by giving kudos. I remember last year, I definitely shot off a lot of suggestions. So what I want to start by saying is that it's really good to know that people can receive feedback and, you know, really try to put some intention behind it. So I wanted to say that. I am also wanting to tell you guys that with regard to the strategic plan, it's very thorough, very well laid out. I'm hoping that everything you guys are planning and that you have goals to do comes to pass. But I agree with Joy. I am interested in seeing more specifically how you guys plan to go about and also continue with the diversity efforts, including with the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Thank you, Erin. David, I think that leaves you, yes? Did you
Only
want
thing
to add anything?
Only thing that I didn't hear somebody say that I would have thought about. They made mention of using something called a net promoter score as a measure of audience loyalty and satisfaction. Using a standard externally articulated metric in this case, I think is a best practice and a strong thing they're doing.
Yeah.
Sorry, I wanted to add one final thing though.
No, go for it. Go for it.
I did mention this last year, and I know that these kinds of things are not easy to do, but you know, I'm hearing more so than Bach, I'm hearing choral. It seems that one targeted way of possibly and very quickly increasing your audience is by considering a rebranding, which it looks like you guys have done at least one time before. It sounds like something like the Dayton Choral Society would sound more effective and less exclusive of people that maybe are not obviously, excuse me, indirectly associated with Bach. It just feels very limiting, the title alone, for people, you know, regarding diversity on so many levels. The title alone is just not inviting. It's just not, because if you're trying to definitely solve some problems in other areas, like with, you know, with audience, with diversity, with more community involvement, then a rebranding would probably be most necessary. And I would say one of the top 3 things I would greatly consider in the very near future.
I happen to like Bach, and I really appreciate that they are working on keeping classical music in the Dayton area. I think it's a really important thing.
There are, I think there are Bach societies, you know, like it's a thing, you know, that reaches beyond just Dayton, Ohio. And so I think part of what people are thinking about here is just the audience, you know, and who is the audience for it that you're thinking about as you make these kinds of decisions. Yeah. Yeah. So thanks.
I think you guys both bring up a key point. If I must like be specific, I think that this particular group is specific to a niche, you know, like of Bach music specifically, and Bach composed music. So I think it would be inclined to add or incorporate, and I think that they said this in strengthening the board and community partnerships. We are currently developing an action plan to renew Sing Dayton to encourage singers of all ages, especially younger singers, to perform choral music in the community. I think that if we had more exposure to Bach type of composing, maybe, especially in diverse areas, that will help bring more exposure to people understanding and liking or appreciating more Bach specific music versus expanding it out to more classical music. I think that we do have some organizations that focus on classical music abroad. So I do appreciate the niche in Bach specific music. I just think that it would be, I'm just curious to see how it can expand to more diverse areas so people can become more familiar and more interested in understanding classical music and how it plays a part in all music.
Yeah.
Just a
Thanks, everybody.
quick
It's a
comment to follow up
Yeah,
on
of
that.
course, of course, of course, of course.
In In the evaluation section, the application states the BSD space is both narrow and broad in that they perform classical choral works by famous composers, Perrin, for example, Bach, those Perrin, plus lesser known and in some cases new/contemporary work. So they're stating that they have a broader choral perspective than just Bach.
Yeah.
They do. I really like Vivaldi and Mozart. They're all in that same class.
Aaron, Culp, did you have a comment? I hate to like shut this down because I love these kinds of conversations. And I know the Bach Society would appreciate hearing this. But we're over our 15 minutes by 5 minutes already, and I want to make sure that the co receives also its due. So Aaron, can you say your statement? You know, I don't want to cut you off, right? And give you the opportunity to say what you wanted to say, but then we'll move immediately into the co because you're the primary reader for that as well. And so you can just make one fluid transition without me interrupting you that way.
Sure. I was just reflecting on, and I made this comment for an earlier organization, part of what I find really engaging about the applications that are being submitted is the thoughtfulness with which the organizations are engaging with what is my mission, and am I responsive to my audience or am I responsive to my mission? And I think that's one of the things that's in tension for the Bach Society is in their Net Promoter Score, they have a very strong, committed audience. And so how much are you committed to serving the things that you know that your audience likes versus how much are you focused in this innovation and engagement space? And I think it's fascinating to watch in the applications, the organizations wrestle with that and think through and articulate how they see themselves in that space.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I will transition us to the co. So the co's mission is to provide art for the community and a community for artists. And they articulate 5 core values, I apologize. And I thought these were just so well stated that I'm going to read them right from the page. One is to exhibit groundbreaking art by showcasing visionary artists from Dayton and beyond. Number 2, support artists in their livelihoods by paying fair wages, providing professional development, and funding new commissions. Number 3, to make art accessible by keeping admission free. Number 4, to create community through art by bringing people together through creativity and conversation through the Dayton Art Fair and public programs that amplify diverse voices. And number 5, innovate at the intersection of art and life through art and wellness initiatives, residencies, or cultural events, pushing boundaries to make art a transformative force. I just thought that was incredibly impactful, the way they articulate their vision and what they're trying to accomplish. One of the things that I highlighted as I was reviewing their application is just the reach they have for an organization with the budget the size that they have. They're reaching 44,000 annual visitors, which is incredible. That's an incredibly wide reach. And I think somewhere later on in the application, they reference that people are, they're impacting folks from 3 different states, from Indiana, Kentucky, and also Ohio. When we look at their artistic and cultural vibrancy section, I think it's clear that vibrancy is something that they are very focused in, is how can we stay, as a fine arts museum focused in contemporary art. They're always looking to see how they can continue to innovate. They have 4 to 12 exhibitions 30+ art education, artist development programs at community events, including Art in the City and the Dayton Art Fair. The other piece that I thought was worth highlighting here is of the 600 members of the museum, more than half of them identify as artists. And I think that's a really telling statement of the community that they serve, but also the passion with which that community supports this organization. They highlighted several really specific instances of innovation and in bringing new art forward. I was particularly interested in their podcast and the student soundwalk project that they're partnering with WISO to do. Both of those were particularly interesting, specific examples. I really enjoyed the work samples that they included in their application. And then looking at their evaluation and innovation, they highlighted in this section several key partnerships that they have. Their evaluation form comes in the form of feedback from visitors. They're looking at their attendance. They're looking at the geographic reach of their attendance and other data in order to assess their impact and are they succeeding. Looking forward to still in the community impact and engagement section, they highlight making events like Dayton Art Fair accessible to low-income families. And in particular, they highlight partnerships with the Dayton Metro Library RTA and Kroger to offer free admission, bus fare vouchers, and parking with shuttle services. I think that's a piece that I would encourage the other organizations to also look at. Several of the other organizations talked about removing financial barriers by providing free tickets or reduced tickets, but I didn't hear enough people talking about addressing barriers of transportation. And I thought this was really tremendous that they're talking about building intentional partnerships to make sure not only is it available, but it's accessible. Looking at organizational development, apologies that I keep flipping through my pages, organizational capacity. They are planning to embark on a new 3-year strategic plan, and I'm looking forward to seeing what that turns into as they build it into the future. Looking at their finances, they in the application are quoting, they have pretty diverse revenue streams, both from individual giving, from government and grant support, from sponsorships, and from earned incomes. They operate very lean, and they note that they align salaries to realistic income projections and modest, well-defined program marketing and exhibition costs. They do have a safety net fund, and they are operating nearly break even. So I think they have focused in their finances, and I think there's continued opportunity for enhancing the strength of the organization from a financial perspective. But it seems as I read through this application, and in particular, as I recall from last year, if memory serves, they've made progress and it looks like they're moving in the right direction here. One of the things that I really appreciated further down in the application, they mention they ensure artists are paid for their time and contributions, regardless of commercial sales. So while they're tying salary for their staff to revenue projections, they're not tying anything related to their artists to revenue projections, which I think is really important for the artists themselves. And I think that was everything that I wanted to highlight. I really appreciated the thoroughness and the detail of the application. The Co should be commended for their geographic reach and for the intentional focus they have in innovation. The partnerships they highlighted focused in how in wellness, and then also the partnership I mentioned earlier of ensuring that transportation isn't a barrier, particularly since they are really focused in reaching an underrepresented population. I welcome other comments.
Thank you very much, Erin. Let's open it up to the floor here. Tony, your hand is raised if you want to go.
Erin, you did such a great job. It's hard to find something
You
else.
might steal Chonga's fire now.
Right.
His hand went up right after yours.
Right, that's right. I got here first. Anyway, I was most impressed with the fact that they have 3 employees and they have such a huge reach. That they've been pretty innovative in how they do that too, including that free transportation. I really thought that was great. They collaborate with everybody. WYSO, Stivers, Dayton, Downtown Dayton Partnership, DA, Dayton Chamber, UD, RTA, Dayton Library, even Premier Healthcare. Not Kettering though. Anyway, put a good word in, Erin. Anyway, I was very impressed with that. I was a little concerned that their 5-year plan ended in 2022, and they've been operating pretty well without a plan for the last couple of years. So I was glad to see that they've got a new plan in the works. They gave timelines, but they did not give any specific dates when they were going to get that done. So that would be my only concern, that they need to put some dates with those timelines. That's it for me. Go for it, Chandra.
So Erin did a great job with outlining the criteria and goals for the organization, which I concur with. In the evaluation and innovation section, the methods of evaluation may be enhanced with examples that support the specific programming data. So I think there was, for me, a disconnect with the actual data to support what was stated in the application. And then other than that, in the just final comments, my notes are encouraging the organization to enhance its community participatory engagement, to do more in that area in terms of working with the youth in the community. And then a site visit note. I made an attempt to visit the organization, and there was a note on the door which indicated they were closed until the 16th for installation of a new exhibit. And then I attempted a second time to visit on the 19th, and they were also closed. I don't know if that had something to do with the NATO impact being in the city at the present time, but considering opportune hours to meet the flow of traffic or visitors coming to the organization, and possibly the installation of new exhibits. So those are my comments. I yield back.
Thank you. David or Joy, anything you want to add about the CO at this time?
There was some suggestion that their financials looked okay. Actually, I maybe have to go look at this again. My thought, the actual financial shortfall that they're looking at could be problematic, could be material and problematic.
Yeah. Joy and Aaron Smith-Glenn, I think you are back in here if you want to say anything as well. I don't want you to be excluded if you have things you want to add to the conversation.
I love it. I just wanted to real quick add regarding the strength in the programming. and particularly in the community impact. They have the wellness program that was implemented
Yeah.
for doing the contemporary art and introducing holistic well-being. I thought that was a curious piece tied into the collective of their mission. And I would like to, I just thought that was a curious piece. I would have liked to see more details like that, but I think that was a good piece to highlight.
Yeah. Thank you. I think that wraps our session today. I want to thank all of the participants who are here right now, for your attendance. Thank you for putting up with our technical glitches with the internet. I'm not sure what that was about. But I hope this has been a meaningful experience for each of you. And please know that this recording will be made available to you within next week's time frame. And with that, I'm going to ask the public and any applicants who are in the room to please exit so that the panel can hold a closed meeting as they make final decisions about comments and scoring that they need to make. So thank you. And everyone, we are now alone, and Erin Smith Glenn did come back and then left again. I think maybe she's facing similar technical difficulties. So hopefully she'll make it back. But let's go ahead and open it up to the floor here. Congratulations, you all. You were really thoughtful and you really did. You referred to the application. Every single one of you made sure to ground your comments back to the application and to your site visits. And I just really appreciate that effort. I know, especially if it's an organization you're familiar with, you can want to spill all of your inside knowledge and it can be hard to hold that back. But I feel like everybody really did just a lovely job at presenting an objective kind of approach to the organization. So I really appreciate that.
Are we supposed to still be recording?
What? I'm sorry?
We're still supposed to be recording?
No, I'm actually going to turn this off at this point.